Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. Once again, coming at you from the God angle as we go over some very boring price action. But in the boring times, very important things are happening, and there is an update on the very high-term timeframes that is playing into the long-term idea that Bitcoin is probably putting in a major low, within this region. Doesn't mean that it can't come down in the short term. In fact, that's probably even likely here. However, short-term downside, not the same thing as long-term downside, as we'll go over. Anyways, other than that, I want to start things off with some more Twitter bullshit. From a humongous account here, Bitcoin Archive, over 1 million followers, and is shouting at the top of his lungs, breaking, Chase Bank to block payments for Bitcoin and crypto assets. This is the kind of Twitter bullshit that drives me fucking insane, because it is true, but it's not true. It's true for the UK customers, not for anyone else, at least as of now. So could it be an issue further on down the road? Yeah, absolutely. But the headline here is not matching what is actually happening. The headline here implies that Chase Bank has blocked all of it across all of the their worldwide clientele. However, that is not the truth as of right now. So another just great Twitter post that's very thought-inducing, and I think with that in mind, I can go back over to my notes over here, and we get into the Bitcoin analysis of the day. So I want to focus things on the 5-day, because the 5-day did just close last night for CME, and we do see a few things of interest. First things first, I want to follow up on the 5-day hidden bullish divergence that we did see confirmed within this region right here. Again, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't come back down and test around these lows. That's completely fine. 25,500 is certainly not out of the question here, but ultimately looking at this area right here as still potentially a major higher low compared to this low over here. So we have this low and this low, obviously very slightly higher low. But again, I want to actually come back to this. I know we keep on coming back to this, but it has been relevant for the past almost month and a half now, which was the hash ribbon signal, which fired off in middle of August, which did suggest that the prior low, which was about $25,000 over here on the 5-day time frame, is likely to be the low. Again, going off those statistics. Again, I am just spitting out statistics right here. Doesn't mean that it's guaranteed, but higher probability, very high probability. I believe it was 15 out of 17, or either 13 out of 15 or 15 out of 17, without bringing up my chart right now, of the prior times that we have seen that where the prior low was the low before Bitcoin, never really revisited it on a closing basis, or went below it on a closing basis, is what I really should be saying. So again, we are starting to see, that hidden bullish evidence, volatility starting to tick up here for the first time in a long time as well. And on top of that, we do see, if I go into my stochastic, or actually if I do go over to the 5-day time frame for spot price action, we can see that the 5-day jewel is starting to have a bit of a turnaround here as well. Not supported by DMI just yet, but is starting to turn around in a pretty, in a pretty critical zone, I would say, similar to what we did see, or comparable to what we did see in December of 2022 over here, as you can see, which was, so far the low. Yes, it did fire off a few more times within that vicinity, propelling a bit of a run, about 20% run right there, or almost 20% run from bottom to top. So it's not, it's not a guarantee, obviously, but just more things kind of pointing in that same direction is what is the picture that I'm painting right here. Anyways, moving on, we do see that the 5-day stochastic oscillator for CME, which again just updated last night on upon closure, has moved significantly down as far as the pivot goes. It is now 26,228, which Bitcoin's $30 above, which is a lot right now, because Bitcoin's been stuck within a fucking $200 range for the past few weeks, it feels like. Anyways, again, as long as Bitcoin kind of oscillates within this region, assuming that it does reclaim 26,250 or just kind of remain here or higher by the end of this next closing period, which is into next Monday, so the next real trading day of October, it's going to start to look more and more like, hey, Bitcoin probably does have another rally in it, or at least a try for a rally, again, within one of the, or actually literally the lowest volatility periods that it's ever seen on the 5-day time frame ever on CME. Now, of course, this is not the same on spot price action, but just put things in perspective right here. Something pretty massive is baking, it does seem. So as I did say earlier, Short-term timeframes can very easily come to the downside. In fact, I'd probably be biased towards that, if anything. I'm not like, I don't feel super like confident about it or anything like that. But just looking at the 4-hour HPDR ranges here, we do see it stepping down, and we do see that the bottom side of the current range is still 25.5. Again, want to remind myself that the daily and 2-day time frame did confirm hidden bearish divergence over here, and also just generally playing out what would be seemingly a downtrend actually on these on these time frames. So coming back down to at least 25.5 is certainly not out of the question. Where do things start to become an issue for the boo laws? Not just what's the word that I'm looking at, or what's the word that I'm looking for? Not just an issue for the boo laws, but like actually confirming major continuation to the downside. And realistically, that is, on closures below that 25. I mean, 25.5 probably would be concerning, or just any sort of a tick below the September lows that we've seen thus far. That's going to very likely do it for me, and have to be looking much, 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 much lower. I do want to also point out here, while we are kind of talking about short-term downside, we can go over to traditional markets, which have been in much more of a disarray compared to Bitcoin. But even with that in mind, looking at the weekly right here for NAS, is it within a bouncy region right here? Yeah, I do think so. I think it'll at least try for a short-term bounce. The real question is, does it come down to this 14.2 region, 14.3 region, which I think is actually kind of likely, and maybe even set it up for a dip into the 13.750-ish region. It is interesting to see that traditional markets and Bitcoin are more or less uncorrelated right now. We don't see them following each other realistically. It's just been, they've kind of been doing their own things actually, or Bitcoin's been doing its own thing, or crypto's been doing its own thing. So it's running on something else as far as as far as that goes. But yeah, looking at the daily for NASDAQ, looking at the daily for SPY, do I think that things can come lower here? Well, actually, did just fill that 4,300, or it's very close to that 4,300 gap. Maybe another strike to the downside, maybe down to like 4,250, somewhere around there. I'd be looking for bounces basically. So ultimately, it's kind of this. Well, it's not kind of the same as Bitcoin, but it's kind of the same as before. It's like it's in pullback mode. I believe that we did see. I think that we called out a head and shoulders here. Yeah, we did. Yeah, fair enough. Technically speaking, probably should be looking a little bit lower actually, but ultimately. It doesn't really seem to be interesting, or at least related to Bitcoin. Same thing with Dixie. I mean, Dixie continues to the upside as we spoke about yesterday. Again, coming in for a really, really strong end of quarter closure here. I have to be looking higher into the end of the year. So, is that going to affect Bitcoin? Who knows? And for the past few weeks, it seems like this was just been straight to the not the past few weeks, past few months, been straight to the upside. Bitcoin's had its ups and downs. Kind of hard to make an analysis just on that. I'd probably be looking more at Forex based off that. So anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off, just kind of waffling on here, as there ain't too much to be aware of. Just that 5-day pivot starting to change. You can see the wheels slowly turn in motion. Again, I stick with my overall analysis that Bitcoin's done to the upside for September basically. Probably not going to make new lows in September either. Probably going to close something like this, whether it's slightly green or slightly red. I don't have a strong opinion on. So for the next 3 days, probably going to be sideways and boring as all hell. October, statistically speaking, does favor the boo loss, as we did go over, and we'll go over that yet again when the time does come closer, and also look at the quarterlies. So ultimately, just kind of wasting time here, turning sideways. And with that said, I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.